Welcome to Mentor. I'm Marco Bertozzi.
And I'm Rachel Forde.
And we are the founders of TheZoo.London consultant collective and executive search business.
And our podcast is all about sharing world-class wisdom and mentorship from those who have been there, done it, and are here to guide you. And coming up today, we have an incredible guest, Sir John Hegarty.
What a guest.
What a guest. In fact, I think it might be a slightly extended version again because there's just so much
6 decades.
Wisdom. Six decades, yeah. And keep tuned in if you want to know what Sir John Hegarty will write on his gravestone. That's a game he plays with his friends. What are you going to write on your gravestone?
I was just blown. I'd heard it before elsewhere, but I was blown away by his just 100% focus on the work, doing good work, the ideas, the concept of the brand. I mean, even to the point of his mentors were basically ideas rather than people. Yeah. It's just the focus is incredible.
Yeah, it's all about the ideas, and actually he did say that that's how when AI takes over, the people that are close to the ideas are the ones that will win. Yeah. And also for anyone who has worked at BBH, or obviously most people know BBH, which is his agency he founded. The black sheep, which came from the Levi's advert, wasn't originally their logo. No. But you can find out why the black sheep did become the logo for BBH. Hey, Marco, when you think of a great mentor, what words come to your mind?
I think smart, definitely, supportive, obviously wise and experienced for sure.
Yeah, I think the same really. And, someone knowledgeable who pushes your ideas beyond your first ideas.
That's why we chose Viral Tribe, because they've helped us on our podcasting journey.
Yeah, you could say they've been our podcasting mentors, couldn't you?
They most definitely
have been our ultimate support system, helping us with creative ideas, production. And with state-of-the-art studios like we're in today in the heart of Soho, London, they're not just brilliant at what they do, but they make the whole process seamless and stress-free.
And they work with some of the biggest creators, producers and brands, making everything from chart-topping shows to branded entertainment.
So if you're thinking about launching a video, an audio, a live podcast, make Viral Tribe your podcasting mentor.
Drop them a line at hello@viraltribe.co.uk, and if you quote mentor, they'll give you 20% off your first 3 bookings.
So what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? So should we get him in?
Yeah.
Get John in. Come in, Sir John.
Today we welcome Sir John Hegarty, who has been central to the global advertising scene over 6 decades. Now, I don't know if you want it, but of all our guests, we thought 5 decades was going to be the top, but you've now beaten that and take that accolade. Working with brands such as Levi's, Audi, Bollington's, Lynx, British Airways and Johnny Walker. He was a founding partner of the famous Saatchi & Saatchi in 1970, and he co-founded Bartle Bogle Hegarty in 1982 with John Bartle and Nigel Bogle. The agency now has offices all over the world. John's creative awards are numerous, and to be fair, you don't put too many of them into this introduction, so to your credit. He has been given the D&AD President's Award for Outstanding Achievement, and in 2014 was admitted to the US American Advertising Federation Hall of Fame. John was awarded a knighthood in 2007 and was the recipient of the first Lion of St Mark Award at the Cannes Festival of Creativity in 2011. So John has written 2 books, Hegarty on Advertising, Turning Intelligence into Magic, and Hegarty on Creativity, There Are No Rules. In 2022, Sir John co-founded The Business of Creativity, which aims to unlock creative potential through inspiring, distinctive and entertaining products. And we always read the introductions because we want to get it right. And most of the people we interview have had such esteemed careers that we don't want to miss anything.
Yeah. And so I suppose really it's for for myself and Marco, welcome.
Thank you. Lovely
Sir
to be
John.
here. Yeah.
Honestly, when we've mentioned that you're coming on, like everybody's like, the whole team is here today. Like, everybody wants to hear what you've got to say. And you're obviously well known within the advertising industry, but you're obviously well known beyond that. Even my brother said to me, he said, "Oh wow, God, that's a good. You must be doing that. You do." So we really do appreciate your time.
Grateful.
We know you don't do too many of these things. But we just want to say thank you for being here.
Absolute pleasure.
And Marco was obviously started off with your bio, but in your own words, we do kick off every mentor podcast with your career in 60 seconds. Now that's basically 10 seconds a decade. So that's pretty tough. But if you can have a go, we'd just love to hear your journey from your perspective.
In 60 seconds, right.
Or try.
Well, I'll give it a go. Right. Well, the clock starting now. I came into advertising in 1965. I mean, it's unbelievable to think about that, but I generally say around about the time the Beatles were releasing Help, so it doesn't seem too bad. I got my first job was at an agency called Benton and Bowles, big American agency. I got fired 18 months after I joined them for being a monumental pain in the arse. I then joined Crama Saatchi, a fabulous consultancy started by Charles Saatchi and Ross Kramer. Then that merged and became Saatchi & Saatchi in 1970. I became a shareholder in that. 73, I helped found the London office of TBWA. That's where I met Nigel and John. 82, we founded BBH. And in 2014, I founded the Garage Soho, which was an early stage investment company helping businesses get going, entrepreneurs get going, and helping them understand it's about brands. And then 3 years ago, we started the business of creativity, which is about teaching businesses about creativity. Creativity is the future. How was that?
That was amazing. I think that was totally on brief. And I'm just thinking, I mean, I did read...
I want to be timed on that,
Yeah,
by the way.
we weren't that late to James, but thank God you weren't put off that so early on in your career. And have you always tried to be a monumental pain in the arse?
Well, it was an interesting time because at that period, the mid-'60s, the creative revolution was happening in America, in New York. We came in, a whole group of us came into the advertising industry. Because I went to art school. I was going to be a painter, but then I went on to be a graphic designer at the London College of Printing. And through there, I got into advertising because I just loved ideas. And it was the industry that really sort of celebrated ideas. It was, I always say, if you walk around a good advertising agency, what's the phrase you'll hear more than anything else? It'll be, so what's the idea? And I love that. But we were a whole group of people who came into the industry then. People like David Abbott, John Webster, David all those people were coming into the industry thinking we could make it really better. It could be something fantastic. And that took some time for that to land, but eventually it did. And so we were coming in. There was an old school who were doing all this dull, boring advertising. We wanted to change it. And of course, when you come in at the age of 21 and say to all these people what you're doing isn't very good, they don't take it. In fact, they take it rather badly. And so in the end, they go, do you know, I think your future lies somewhere else. And so you get fired. But it was it's always I always think you need to be fired at least once in your life to know that, one, what it's like, two, that you've got to hold on to your beliefs, and three, that you will find something else. Yeah. Don't give up.
Yeah, there's a lot of, obviously, with all the changes in corporate restructuring at the moment, there's a lot of that about. So what did you take away from that? What was your sort of own personal lesson from, or how you dealt with it in terms of the rest of your career?
Well, there is an element of you which is fearful because you think, oh my God, is this it? Is it all over? But I genuinely felt that what we were doing was right. The way we were thinking about advertising was right, and it was the future. So that sustained me. I kind of had great friends that I'd met. I was very lucky. The first job I had, I was put to work with a new young writer, a guy called Charles Saatchi, and we worked together. So I knew Charlie. Then I'd met Ross Kramer, who was a wonderful, wonderful art director, and so there were people you knew who'd said, you'll come through it. Don't worry about it. Yeah. And eventually, I did get the job I wanted, and then it sort of unfolded from then on out. Yeah. But it's good. I mean, it's fine for me to say now, looking back, but it just sharpens your point of view, and teaches you maybe also how to say to people they're not right. Yeah. Maybe I was a bit aggressive. I don't think I was, but I think when I look at the people who were there, who'd been doing what they'd been doing for as long as they had, and you come along and say, this is rubbish, and you're 21. But you're looking at all the great work coming out of New York and say, this is what people love, and you're laughing at it. You're not, you're ridiculing it. So you kind of know you're right.
Yeah. I heard that belief, though. Sorry, I think that's something to really hold on to. Yeah. Have creating your beliefs, and I think that's really good advice, that you've got your instinct.
I think today I always say to creative teams or creative people, what's your philosophy? What is it you're trying to do? What is it you're trying to say? Why are you using your creative skills in this way or that way? What are you doing to make a difference? And I think it's fundamentally important that you've got to have a belief system that drives you forward. And I think not enough people talk about that or think about that. Yeah. What is it? You listen to a great painter, a writer, a filmmaker, they talk about their beliefs. And the phrase you always hear them say when talking about their next piece of work, what I wanted to say was this. And it's even though you're working in advertising, what is it you want to say? Yeah. Even though you're working for brands and you're committed to what they want to do, but actually it's your point of view that you're engaging and you're projecting work through that. Yeah.
And advertising has such an incredible influence on culture, and I think we're only just possibly coming to realise that, but
I think because great advertising, great brands make themselves a part of culture. I mean, if you do that, then your brand is more valuable. It's not just a product. Yes. It becomes a part of culture. And I think great advertising and great communication, great thinking actually does that for brands. And not enough brands today realise that, actually. I think that's one of the problems, is they don't understand, the value of becoming a part of culture and how you go about doing that. I often say, we talk about brands, and at the core of a brand is trust. That's why they came into existence, and we know the story. And, but I think a modern brand today, a great brand, is also a movement. It's more than just a brand. It's more than trust. It is a movement. If you think about what Apple did when it launched, it was a movement. It was like, power to you. You can take control. Nike, just do it. It was about release your inner self. Go out there. And it wasn't just selling you a running shoe. It was selling you a way of thinking, a way of being. And I think great brands today become that. Whether, Elon Musk and Tesla and all that, he's whatever you think of him. But when he was at his best, he was saying, this is the future. This is what a car should be. Yeah. And that makes it a part of culture and creates more value for that brand. So it's important that brands think like that.
And I think when you said about the power and I think that ultimate trust and then beyond to a movement, if you ask the average person, or especially the young people, they trust brands more than they do politicians and police people,
thought,
which is a thing.
But that's
so it's not just a power, but there's a slight responsibility on brands as well to try and do the right thing.
I hope in some ways they trust brands. I'm not sure I actually agree with that. I think people's appreciation of brands has declined. I think there's a lot of evidence to show it has, and that's because I think of the development of social media and digital technology, and that the way brands track, you rather than persuade you, rather than inspire you. I know I've often talk about brands now, their media strategy is stalking. I kind of think, there's a law against stalking.
Yeah, it's not how you make friends.
You can go to prison for that. Yeah. Maybe some brands should go to prison for stalking people.
Well, that's the responsibility thing, isn't it? They've got power and responsibility. Yeah. Well, it's interesting.
Yeah, I remember I was at a conference and somebody was extolling the genius of kind of, isn't it fantastic that, when you go into a Nike store, they know everything about you and they can track what it is. And I'm sitting there going, no, that's just terrible. I mean, that's just truly, truly awful. And these people haven't really thought about it. And I'm saying, no, I came into the industry to inspire people, not to stalk them, to inspire them, to say, look at this idea, think about this, look at that. Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? So they go, yeah, I like that.
That's it's persuasion really, really versus coercion.
Persuasion versus coercion. I rather like that. I was going to say promotion, but coercion is much better.
You can take that.
Yeah, I'm going to have that one.
You can have that one for free.
Tick. So see, it's worked already. Coercion.
So John, I'm interested. So you were talking about mantras and believing in your own visions. The most famous of all is when everyone else zigs zag. That has featured as a advertising idea, obviously BBH line and probably yourself. So how is that like when you think back in any of those scenarios? How do you advise people to think about that? Like, how has it benefited you? And does it come naturally, or is it something that you can almost teach people to think in that way?
It's interesting. I'll get to a little story about that. But I was once, I was asked many, many years ago, it was Terence Conran who said to me, John, would you, at the Design Council, would you give I think it's Paul Riley lecture, so Paul Riley who founded the Design Council, would you give a lecture? And I'd love you to talk about what you look for in an idea. And I mean, okay, Terence. And I sort of went away. I thought, I don't know, something I like, really. And it was like, and that's going to make a very short speech. So I thought, I better think about this. But in a sense, I was able to examine, and I thought, now, what is it I like in an idea? Why do I like that idea versus this idea? Why do I want to do this versus that? And I realized that what I loved in ideas was irreverence and the power of irreverence. And I therefore then gave a talk about irreverence, the power of irreverence. And because I had been to art school and did a bit of history of art and all that sort of stuff, I was able to talk about how art moved from revering to being irreverent. So if you think about the Renaissance, if you were an artist at the time of the Renaissance, you were commissioned, your job, make people believe in God, the church or whatever, or this particular ruler or that count or whatever it might be. Because that's how you got paid. But gradually, as society developed, as it evolved, as it became more questioning, irreverence crept in and it began to question. And so you ended up with the Dadaists, you ended up with kind of art questioning authority. And in a sense, this I thought was very, very powerful. And it's powerful in the world of communication because when I'm working on a particular brand, I'm actually saying to somebody, look, I think you should consider this brand versus that brand. So you're kind of setting up a kind of a conflict. This one's better than that for these reasons. And so that irreverence is a wonderful way of setting that up and driving it forward. And art has been very good at that. Pop art, all art since, the last 150, 200 years has had this sense of irreverence in it. I'm going to challenge because you're trying to get somebody to think, to actually, wait a minute, this versus that, because choice has become a part of our culture. And therefore irreverence was a powerful tool, not only in terms of communication, but organizations that were irreverent, constantly challenged, constantly questioned. So that was my talk, and it was around that. So that was my driving force. So when we get to kind of doing work, and we talked about the Black Sheep poster. Now here's here's the truth from me.
We like the truth.
Well, it's actually I never liked the line.
Did you not?
I did the poster, and
you
I
did
just
the post for Levi's, didn't you?
It was Levi's were launching black denim.
Yeah.
And I just wanted that whole all the sheep going in one direction with a black sheep going in the opposite direction with as it is.
Yeah.
And it just said Black Levi's.
Yeah.
And the writer I worked with, Barbara Noakes, thought it should have a line. And I, as an art director, I've always gone, no, take words out, take words. I always say to the writers, words
it's
are
almost
a barrier.
like they're trying to spell it.
Words are a barrier to communication, just to annoy them. And in the end, I kind of lost the debate. And to this day, despite when the world zigzag, which actually wasn't an original line, it was a line that was out there, I thought diminished the poster. And actually, if you think about it, if it was just that poster, the Black Sheep, and it just said Black Levi's.
It's something about, it's almost like trying to explain what the picture's doing.
Exactly.
Which is,
it was my point exactly.
Yeah.
You don't, I always say to writers, your line isn't a caption to the picture. It's a line that takes you somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it expands the idea, not... See what I'm saying? I'm saying when the world's no. And so despite the fact that people say, and I have to stand back and go, people still say, when the world zigzag. But I personally thought that was wrong.
And it's still on the wall at BBH.
It is. It's on the wall at at our offices in 62 Dean Street. So, but it didn't. It's interesting.
But did it apply more to how you went about business
your
and the
philosophy?
business?
It was still your philosophy, was it?
Well, do you know what's interesting about it? Because people say, well, your philosophy and that. And actually, I've always said your philosophy comes through your work, through your thinking. And BBH didn't adopt the Black Sheep as its symbol so that was like 1983. And it wasn't until 1995, I'm just got to get my dates right, when we moved into Kingley Street. And so we're having a meeting with the architects, moving into Kingley Street, doing the offices up. And I say to the architect, oh, look, I think it's a very narrow street. I think a great big flag outside saying BBH or something like that. And he said, you're not allowed to. It's planning permission won't let you. And I thought, that's right. He said, but you can put your logo up. And Nigel and I sitting there, I can always remember it. It was a sort of spring day, and it was a nice evening, and it was still light. And Nigel and I went, well, we don't have a logo. We're an advertising agency. We don't have a logo. It's a really stupid thing to say, wasn't it? What do you mean? Why not? And anyway, so the meeting ends, and Nigel and I are walking out. The architect's walking ahead of us down the stairs, and we both turned to each other and said, "Actually, we do constantly talk about the Black Sheep." Yeah. And I was given a Black Sheep from Levi's because we got them to buy the poster. It was in my office, not a real one. And we said, our logo is the Black Sheep. And we got to the bottom of the stairs and we said to the architect, we have got a logo, it's a Black Sheep. And that's how we came to put it up outside the building, because we were allowed to do that.
And didn't you have a big, life-size Black Sheep in reception? Did you?
Yes, it was
yeah.
I remember.
That.
Oh, it's great.
But so the point about that story is people often say, and I've said, what do you believe in? But sometimes it takes time for you to get to what you believe.
Yes.
And actually, it will come through your work. If you let your work do the talking for you, you'll get it through that. As long as it is your work and it's not borrowed work. As long as it's you that's speaking. And that's why it's so important that you put yourself into your work. And then that's the true you. Without you realising it, then you begin to discover it. Like I discovered Irreverence, because I kept looking at all my work and going, well, that is very irreverent, and I love that.
Yeah.
And the work I was inspired by was irreverent. So it was letting yourself come through was fundamentally important.
And so like part, then it becomes the DNA and and it builds
It isn't isn't sort of bolted on.
Yeah.
You haven't gone to a kind of corporate identity company and said, give us a logo, and they come up with some sort of, it is something that comes from within.
Yeah. And it's built, actually, it leads on to the next question, actually, because in terms of it builds over time, because obviously there's quite a famous statement that it takes a lifetime to build a reputation, but you can lose it in a minute. And obviously everything that you read and everything that people know about you as a businessman is that it's the creativity and brand building is at the heart of everything. If you applied that statement to brand in terms of building brand reputation, how do you help do that with established brands? I mean, Levi's you were with for 27 years. I mean, so you're constantly, you've got the established brand and the reputation. How do you manage to keep building it without then destroying it in a minute?
Well, it's a very good question. It can be easily destroyed. I think, if we look at countries as brands, we're looking at America right now destroying its reputation, one that's started in 1776. So you kind of go, that's not a very smart thing that's gone on there. Brands, the same thing can happen. I've just mentioned Tesla. Will Tesla recover from the way now people think about it? So you've got to be very careful. But I think I've always said at the core, not only of great communication, but creativity is the truth. The truth drives your thinking. It drives your strategic thinking, what it is you're trying to say. And I think great brands do that. And as long as they adhere to that, as long as they have faith in that and try and be themselves as opposed to someone else, then you're not really going to come undone.
Yeah. So be true. To be true to yourself.
Unto thyself.
Yeah.
I think Shakespeare said that.
Which I guess gives them gives brands freedom to experiment and to try things out.
Of course it does, yeah.
And they might make some mistakes along the way, but if you've built up that
I mean, we've looked at brands, and the other thing too is, I always say borrowing other people's kind of belief system. So you look at, I think it was Pepsi when it was Black Lives Matter, and they did that one particular spot where, and it backfired hopelessly because they tried to adopt something else rather than say, this is what we stand for. This is what we believe in, and we'll express it from our point of view. We're not going to try and borrow somebody else's movement and attach it to us. And I think when brands try and do that, that's when it can go horribly wrong.
And is that authenticity?
It's authenticity. And people feel it, they sense it. And of course, there can be very short-term gains by sometimes not doing that, but the long term, it backfires on you.
Yeah.
And so coming forwards a little bit, I think this is the right way to phrase it, but you sold your business of creativity to Whalar, which obviously we both know the founders there. Just interesting, how did that all start? Not the run up to the sale, but the business of creativity. And the way I sort of looked at it was, I guess it's as a sort of form of mass mentorship, where you must have, constantly be thinking, I need to get this message out for people to. What was the story of how that all came about?
In a way, that's a good one. I was very keen. I kind of was concerned about where our early stage investment business was going. The thing, I really enjoyed it. I really had 10 years helping businesses get going, getting them funding, and then trying to advise them on building a brand, because that's where value would reside. And a brand. The thing that I would say is disappointing is how few of these entrepreneurs understand brands, understand the value of a brand, and understand what it takes to build a brand.
To build one,
And I think that's one of the great tragedies. So I could see that this business was sort of not struggling, but it was going to struggle, and that I wanted to create something else. And like I always say, do interesting things, and interesting things will happen to you. All right. So during COVID, I was being constantly asked, would I give a talk to, major marketing companies and, Heineken and people like that. And what I found in doing that, doing a Zoom talk on creativity, is one, there was a real hunger for understanding creativity much more from all these people. And two, that I couldn't really do it in an hour.
Yeah.
And so I came out of COVID saying to my partners, look, I think we've got to do this properly, because we were talking all the time, and that we should create a course called The Business of Creativity, explaining to businesses that creativity is fundamentally important to their future. It isn't something that when you go into most companies and say creative, they go, oh, well, we're not creative and why do we need it, or whatever it might be, And of course, what they don't realize is starting a business is a creative act. Continuing a business involves creative acts, innovation, at the core, which is creativity. So I was on this kind of mission to kind of create something to take to businesses. Also, that gave me a segue out of
having to do all these
the early stage investment company, and gave my partners a future.
Yeah.
Because I didn't need it. I enjoyed doing it, but I didn't, I was, I'm 81. For Christ's sake,
Can I just say, looking
we want to know the secret.
I mean, my goodness me, looking incredibly well.
Get lucky. I get lucky and eat the right food. And so I was very keen for them to have something that they could take on, but also to kind of create something of true value that we could sell to businesses. So that's really how it came about. And now we've developed it. We've done other courses. We're doing other things. So it's crucial to have, if you're starting a business, if you're creating a business, to kind of see where it can possibly go, but not be bound down by that, and just let it evolve and develop.
Yeah.
And as I say, do interesting things, and interesting things will happen to you. So that's really how that came about. And I've really then gave it to them, and they then said, to drive this business really forward, there would be a great relationship with Whalar. Who are a creator company. And they were very keen to get it to help their creators understand the value of creativity. Their line is liberating the creative voice. So it all worked together. So that's why we did it. It really was a case of two people coming together that was kind of, one was helping the other.
Yeah.
I mean, often mergers come out, or people are bought because of a weakness. You often look at it, it's often a weakness. Not always, it's often a weakness. And this genuinely was a coming together of two companies with very, very similar views, but operating in different places, where one could help the other and the other could help the other one.
And great to have it all down on paper as well.
And you're, when you think about that sort of business of creativity, just to go back to one thing you said there, and obviously you're not going to give away your whole course, but so
it's available online.
And I know
we'll put it in the notes.
You've got a new cohort coming up, correct?
Yes.
Business of creativity.
Well, actually, this is my partners. Really lovely partners I've got. They decided that I call the course, I wanted it to be the business of, which it was, launched as the business of creativity. They then said to me, oh yeah, John, but that's a great name for the company, Business of Creativity. Can we register it? And I think, so you've got to have another name for your course. I said, thank you very much. So I now call what was called the Business of Creativity is now called Creativity for Growth. And that's it. But we launched last year APE, Advertising Principles Explained. We're about to launch AI. It's called MADE, Marketing AI Deconstructed.
Oh, wow.
And that's going to be a new course that's coming out this autumn, helping people in the communications industry understand how AI is going to affect the future of marketing and what they can do about it and their part in it. So that's very exciting, actually. I'm really pleased about it.
And we were actually asked by our producer just this question. If you were going back to your sort of 20-year-old self in the world of AI, without giving your whole course away, what's your advice, to the cohort now that are sort of facing this from a creativity perspective?
Well, without not giving anything away, I think, and you'll expect me to say this, and I'll explain why it's the case. I've always said to everybody coming into the communications industry, and I constantly call it that because it's bigger than just advertising. You must get as close as you can to having the idea or be the person that has the idea, because that's the one job that isn't going to go. And I've seen jobs go in the industry. Typography. We used to have people called typographers, and for those who don't remember this, and there'll be quite a few, when you designed an ad or anything like that, you worked out the body copy and you thought, well, I'll have that in 12-point Caslon. How much space will that fill? A typographer would show you. They'd work it out, cast it off. Along came computers in the early 80s, and you could do it with a click of a button. Typographers disappeared. Now the best ones all kind of segued into being designers, and they realized actually that's the value I have. So they had a more creative value. So I've seen jobs go if it's just purely, in a way, process. So the closer you can get to having the idea, the more certain your future is, because AI is going to be amazing. I have to say, it's going to be. We're in the foothills of it. We don't even really realize how amazing it's going to be. Two things about it. One, it's kind of democratizes opportunity. So anybody now can do it. The other is it's not a tool. It's something you collaborate with.
Yeah, it's a co-pilot.
Yeah. So, but you've got to be the one that drives it. Yeah. You've got to be the one speaking to it. You've got to be the one telling it, no, that's not right. I want this. I want to imagine this. Now help me imagine something better. Yeah. And it's about your imagination linked to AI's depth and spread of knowledge and understanding. That's the future.
Yeah. Because I know there's lots of now who are the top prompters, but you can't be. You've got to have the imagination to be able to prompt. But it's actually how do you work with the AI to get the best? Because you do have to explain quite a lot. I mean, we use it quite a lot in our business, and you've got to explain quite clearly exactly what you want. But no, that's really interesting. And James, the producer, will be
happy. And I
think
think the other thing about it too, actually, this is an interesting point. We're an industry, or I say we as the advertising communications industry, although technically I'm not in it anymore. But we've always worshipped at the altar of youth. And listen, let me tell you, I played that card as hard as I could when I was young. But I would say that when I came into the industry, the age of 21, we did look back to the greats and we learned from them, the Bill Bernbachs, the David Ogilvies, the kind of, George Lois, Mary Wells, people like that. We did look back. But today, I think the industry has failed to do that, and it worships even more at the altar of youth. But, and here's the killer, with AI, because of copyright, you've got to be very careful. Copyright is going to become an issue. An older creative person, a creative with a greater volume of work, has actually more value. Because they can reference all this thinking. It is theirs. They can reference it. They don't hit copyright problems. And they have a hinterland that they can use to project their ideas. So in a way, AI is liberating us from this kind of kneeling down and worshipping at the altar of youth, which is wonderful. As I say, don't get me wrong. I love it. And when I was there, I was using it. But now there's a chance. And I think AI is going to flip a huge number of things. And I recently did a little piece on it. We've always said the marketing director should be on the board. In fact, the marketing director should be as close to the CEO as possible.
Because it's business and it's growth.
Because in the end, what are you? But a brand. Now, why isn't the person who is in charge of driving that not the most important person in the company after the CEO? More so than the CFO. Much more so. Now, the opportunity is for that to happen because if marketing directors get it right, they're the ones that really will understand the relationship between AI and how you market in this new world. Because that marketing director is going to go to the board and is going to say to the board, do you know something? Most of you won't be here in 3 years' time. AI will be doing your job.
There'll be an agent for you. There'll be an agent for you. There'll be an agent for you as you go around the table.
CFO.
There'll be an agent for you, not you, not you, Marco.
That,
Marco can't be replaced, so I'm not going to fire him.
The CFO. I'm going to get AI to do that.
Yeah.
Why do I have to pay this person, I don't know, whatever they're paid, to sit there and hold the company back?
Yeah.
I can get AI to do it.
Yeah.
So here is an amazing opportunity for, one, I said, older creative people. You've got this wonderful sort of history of work that can be utilized. AI can bring it up to date. It can show you how to use it. It's your work. Marketing directors, you've got this amazing opportunity to be the person that drives AI understanding in the communication field in a company. And in the end, it's going to be about brand.
Yeah, and that's the
brand becomes ever more important in an AI world, as we have agentic AI, as we all know. It's going to be this thing that will sift through everything. It'll say, don't do that, John, don't worry about that, I'll do that. You know, some say the internet is dead. The internet as we know it is dead.
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah.
You know, because why do I go online to Google and go that? I can just go on my agentic AI will just say, John, I just ask it.
Yeah.
I don't go to Google anymore. I don't use a search engine anymore. It's done for me.
Yeah.
And it filters stuff out. It filters. And it kind of has an understanding because of an awareness of what I do and of the sort of things I roughly like. And then I challenge it. Go, no, I'd like to do a bit of that, really. Okay, fine, I'll get that for you. Don't worry about that. And then how does the brand then become part of my world?
Yeah.
And that's where the marketing director has the real skill.
And that's the competitive edge, I suppose, isn't it? That's how you're going to... Yeah,
it's really going to be interesting. I think it's a huge opportunity, and I'm hoping that marketing directors understand it. That's their tool to get onto the board.
I think they need to do your course. We can do. They can buy your course and do your course.
We'll put a link in.
We'll put a link into the course.
Yeah, they should do it.
Yeah,
they should be doing it because it is phenomenal for them.
Yeah.
They absolutely understand it. Yeah. And there's a great line in the course that a wonderful guy, Stephen Wolf Pereira, who's been working with AI for 25 years. Because it's been around a long time. And he said, anybody who tells you they're an expert in AI, they're not. They're not. Because it's changing so fast. Yeah. I will give you my experience of how it's going to be. But I'm learning today, tomorrow, and the day after.
We're all learning, 100%. Aren't we? We are. Just to bring it, because that's a lot of talk about AI, which is going to be the future. But you do talk about believing the power of your ideas. As you say, even in the world of AI, be close to the idea. You also say, and I like this, fear of failure is the enemy of creativity. Which is another, and you know, if you innovate and fail, at least you learn. But if you play it safe, you just produce forgettable work. Now, this really leads into our question that we asked, and I know your wife can only allow one word, fuck, but you know, obviously, I would have thought there have been moments where you've innovated and failed, or maybe you didn't, but we ask it every week. What was your biggest fuck up, Sir John?
Do you know, I knew this question was coming, and no, I'm actually being, I can't, look.
You don't have to have one. No, it's fine.
I've done ideas that haven't worked.
Yeah,
everybody
okay.
Knows, you know, I look back, oh God, what went wrong with that? The reason I always say I learn nothing from my failures. Now, if you're a research scientist, I'm sure that is very, very apt. You know, how you go about developing a new drug, a new discovery, or whatever. There are all kinds of processes you go through, and I'm sure failure teaches you. But if you're doing what I'm doing, which is I'm trying to come in every day and have a new idea, and that new idea can't be like yesterday's idea. Failure is built in to what is going to happen, just like it's going to rain. You know, it's going to rain. So if you then fear failure, if you then go, what has that taught me? The only thing it's taught me is ignore it.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is if I really become concerned about it, I'll then begin to go, right, now how do I do my next piece of work? Do I go back to what I know worked before, and then that's it. Yeah. It's all over because you're just repeating yourself. Or do I completely ignore it and go, I just have to move on.
Yeah. One of my favourite sayings is feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's
I love that one. Just like
it
move
is.
forward. You've got to keep moving forward, haven't you?
You know, because I think it's especially the case in our industry, and I think maybe in fashion as well. You know, you did something, it didn't work, you go, fine, okay, I'll just move on. Yeah. But, you know, if you're, you know, I always say this, if you're in the music industry, you know, if you're Mick Jagger, you can go around the world singing Jumping Jack Flash, and the world still turns up and applauds you, and the fact that was written in 1968, you know, it doesn't really matter. No, I couldn't go into a meeting and say, hey, I've got a great idea. I had it in 1968. You'd be laughed out of the room, wouldn't you? Get out. And they'd be quite right to do so because it has moved on.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be relentless in the belief in your ability to have something different.
Yeah.
And difference is fundamentally important because otherwise, why is the brand there?
Yeah.
If the brand's the same as everybody, well, what's the point in it? Why have two?
Yeah.
Get rid of it. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly had something different. And if we go back to the BBH, start of BBH, interestingly, you started BBH at the same age as Sir Martin Sorrell started WPP. So it must have been 40, must have been the year to start things. I wondered, by the way...
I was 38, actually. I'm just thinking, my maths is... I'm never very good at that. Hold on.
Were you together at Saatchi's?
No, I didn't know him at all.
You didn't
cross over.
No crossover.
He and I have a kind of... we have a public spat constantly.
Oh, is that respect for each other in a way?
I don't know. Well, he keeps talking about data and algorithms, and I keep talking about creativity.
So you're the counterbalance.
And then he was very rude about me at a conference, and somebody got up and said, "Oh, John Hegarty says this about data," and Sorrell said, "Well, Hegarty's a dinosaur," and. I thought it was very funny, actually. But I just said, you've just given me material.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, love it.
Oh.
Well, on going back to the BBH, first of all, just, you know, what was the inspiration for it? Because, you know, starting your own business, first of all, big agency, you were probably doing very well where you were. And I think, like, to sort of bring it to modern day, what's your advice for people who are maybe sort of considering starting a business, whether it's agency or anything else, but considering starting a business, and advice for them? Because I know there's we know a lot of people that we talk to that are kind of, should I go back into corporate life? Should I start my own business? Just intrigued about your inspirations and then maybe some advice for them.
Well, we were at TBWA. In 1980, it had become Campaign Magazine's first agency of the year.
Very quickly as well.
Well, 73 we started. Then it was a disastrous start. I could talk about that if you want. But eventually we got it right. We became Campaign Magazine's very first agency of the year. We were just about to win a Grand Prix at Cannes for Lego Kipper at the days when there was only one Grand Prix, not like today where they're all, you know, so many of them. You have to sweep them up at the end of the night. But it was about control. It was about controlling your own destiny, controlling the kind of work that you wanted to produce, developing relationships with clients that were long-term, that you knew that you were in control of. I mean, we did enjoy it at TBWA, and it was a great experience, but it was becoming a global agency. And there was one moment when we were working with Burroughs, Beefeater Gin, and the word came from New York, well, we're pitching for Tanqueray, you've got to fire Burroughs Gin. And we said, no, we're not. We have a very good relationship with them. Why would we do that? And in the end, we had to.
Yeah.
You know,
because
we were instructed.
America said, do it.
Because TBWA had gone to America. Tankery was very big, very important for them to win that. So we were compromised. And so you could never again look a client in the eye and said, this is what will happen.
Yeah.
So that for us was the tipping point that said, we can't go on like this.
Yeah.
And we decided to start our own agency. And John, Bartle, Nigel and myself were the managing trio of TBWA. And so we left in 82, and that's exactly why we did it.
Wow.
And that must have been big headlines at the
all
time,
three
I
of
imagine.
you
It was,
leaving.
well, I hinted at our kind of launch of TBWA in 73 was, if you want a demonstration of how not to launch an agency, I could take you through that one. It was disastrous. And we learned from that lesson. And when we weren't in control of it. TBWA were in control of it, and we were, and but in 82 we decided obviously we were going to control how we launched it, and we worked with campaign on doing it, and it was a kind of a great way of launching an agency, because we literally planned out each week for about 5 weeks what we were going to say.
What was the communication plan? The communication
we were
plan,
going to, and it was all worked out, and that was by working with a wonderful editor at the time there, Bernard Barnett, and about how, we trusted him.
Yeah.
We said, we're going to work with you, Bernard, and this is how we think we should do it. And he said, no, do it like this. And he advised us on how to do it. And he was brilliant.
Wow.
Bernard Barnett was absolutely brilliant. And it was absolutely fabulous launch.
What was the highlight of that launch for you then when you think
the highlight was the eventual thing of saying to everybody that we weren't going to do speculative creative pitches. And that, of course, at the time was like, what? But that's how you want to pitch. You were asked to pitch, and you had to present your ideas. And we said, and actually it was Nigel Bogle's idea. It wasn't my idea. And he said, I think we should stand for no speculative creative pitches.
And is that when Levi's came to you then?
And then we first of all won Aldi, then we won some Whitbread business when they were a brewing company, and then we pitched and won Levi's. But we did it not presenting work, but presenting strategic direction and the ambition of where the brand could go, and understanding the brand. And that went down incredibly well.
God, that's fabulous.
And it was, of course, at the time it was brilliant, because lots of headlines were kind of, they won't last, they won't be able to do it, they'll soon realise they'll have to do speculative creative pitches. And about sort of 8 years later, we're pitching for a piece of business, and the client who's put us on the pitch list said something very funny has happened, and somebody's called him from one of the other agencies pitching, said this is unfair that BBH are on the, because they won't be doing any creative work. So it completely reversed. It's unfair, they've got this advantage. And this wonderful client said, I haven't asked you to do creative work. That's your decision.
Yeah.
And of course they didn't know how to pitch not presenting creative work. So, and actually we won that one.
That's very true.
And didn't you win Agency of the Year then, like literally 2 years after you?
Then we won it about 3 or 4 times through the campaign. Yeah,
amazing.
But it was a great time, and it showed actually having those principles that we developed were fundamentally important. And I was very lucky. I had 2 brilliant partners in Nigel Bogle and John Bartle, who were absolutely fantastic, really brilliant at what they did. And John Bartle always used to say something about, he used to say, I think our agencies like bands. In other words, do they have a period of time? Do they have a 10-year period? And it was very interesting. We had this long debate, and I think part of our success was that we all respected each other. But John Bartle wasn't trying to be the creative director. Nigel Bogle wasn't trying to be the planner. I wasn't trying to tell Nigel how to run account management or to tell John Bartle how to be a planner. We respected what each of us did. And in the end, when a decision came about that particular skill set, be it strategy, be it account management, be it creative, those people made the final decision. And I think that's why it's like, it's why the Rolling Stones are the success they are, because, Keith Richard isn't trying to tell Mick Jagger how to sing, and Mick Jagger isn't telling Keith Richard how to play the guitar. That's what makes success.
Yeah, diverse teams. We've heard that quite a lot, haven't we?
Yeah.
About complementary skill sets. Yeah.
And for future entrepreneurs, what would you say today in terms of advice for them?
Well, the future entrepreneurs, I think it's an incredible time to actually have the ability to go out and start a business. I would say, I always say principles remain, but practices change. So the fundamental principles: build a brand. Because a brand is where value will reside. So it doesn't matter what bit of technology you've invented, what business idea you've got, in the end, somebody will copy you. Somebody will copy you.
Yeah.
What they won't be able to copy is the brand. My big regret, here's a regret rather than a fuck up. Here's a regret. We had a round table where people would come and pitch us their ideas and why they wanted us to invest in them and stuff like that. And looking back, and I think what I should have had is a can of Coke and a can of Pepsi in the middle of the table. No glasses with it, just there. And they pitch and they do that and you talk about that and you're giving them coffee and water and tea. And at the end of it, when they say, well, please, we'd love you to invest in us. And you'd say, fine, well, we just have to go away and think about it. We'll get back to you. And, oh, by the way, before you go, you see I've got a can of Pepsi and a can of Coke there. If I was to give you 5% of one of those companies, which one would you take? Before you answer that question, Pepsi tastes better than Coke in blind tests. So which one would you take 5% of? Now, guaranteed 99.9% of them would have said Coke, please. And if the 1% said Pepsi, you knew they were no good. But the point is, you say to them, and why?
Yeah.
Why is that one better than that one? It's the brand.
It's all about the brand.
They have built an amazing brand.
Yeah.
So if you want us to invest in you, you've got to think about that. Now, I didn't say any of that.
Oh.
If only I had.
Well,
You never know.
Time, yeah.
I've actually thought, you
time,
ever think that thing about what would be your special magic skill? Like some people dream of being Superman. I think mine would be going back and saying what I should have said rather than what I
don't think you'll be alone in that.
Yeah, I know. Like,
I had a lovely story about that one. I was doing some work with Paul McCartney, developing scripts for him for videos in the days when,
pop videos or something.
Pop videos and music made videos and
Yeah.
music videos. And I'd written about 4 or 5 scripts and he didn't really like them. He was very nice, lovely guy, really lovely. And it was a Friday. And he said to me, look, John, I don't think these quite work. Look, let's come back on Monday and let's talk about some more ideas. And I said, well, Paul, that's only 2 days away and, nothing great happens in a hurry. And he said, there was a pause, and he said, yes, it is. I wrote yesterday in 3 minutes.
I thought that might
And you
be
kind of
the
go,
answer.
you got to go now. Now, I want to go back in that conversation
Yes.
and just say what I should have said. Yeah, but Paul, think if you spent 4 minutes, how much better it would have been.
Yeah, exactly. Oh
But
my
anyway,
gosh,
so
well,
that's
Paul
it, yeah.
McCartney, yeah. Oh well, listen, we are going to be slowly out of time.
we've
Although
got time for a
I hope
bit
you don't
more.
mind, we might just make this an extended
Yeah,
edition
we definitely
because
extended
it's been
edition.
your chat is it's unbelievable. But just because we are called Mentor and mentorship has been part of your journey, you've mentioned a few characters. I suppose if we then take that to the younger generations coming through. And a bit like that, looking back, how would you advise, I suppose, younger listeners at the start of their career to how should they seek out mentorship? What should they take from mentorship, or do you not believe in it at all?
Well, I obviously do believe in it because I've written and appear in
exactly.
teaching. But actually, what I would advise people to do, I used to say, and I still sort of believe in it in a way, is don't have idols, don't have people that you put on pedestals. Because you'll only be disappointed. It's the old story. They say don't meet your heroes because you'll be upset with what they are really, really like. But be mentored by ideas. They never let you down. Ideas are things which I always admired. I did love reading about Bernbach. I love reading about George Lois, Mary Wells, those people of that era. But actually what I really loved was their work. And I learned more through their work than anything else. So I would say to people, go back in time, look at great work. Look at, it doesn't mean to say you're going to do that today, but you will learn from it, and it's, read shit, you'll think shit, you'll create shit.
Yeah.
Only look at great stuff. And, again, because I was lucky, I went to art school. At art school, they would say, must go to the Tate, then it was only the Tate, because there's an exhibition by Goya on. You've got to go and see it. You've got to go and be inspired by it. Now, I was never going to be a painter like Goya, but because you were standing amongst brilliance, it rubbed off.
Yeah.
And what I say is tragic today is that you look at young creative people who don't know who David Abbott is. Don't know. Don't know who Dave Trott is. Don't know who Tony Brignall is. Don't understand this great work. Colin Millward, who's he? Man who helped revolutionize British advertising, brought creativity to the people. They don't know that. How can you possibly think you're going to be great if you don't understand where you've come from? I mean, imagine saying to an architectural student, or an architectural student saying to you, never heard of Frank Lloyd Wright, never heard of Mies van der Rohe, who, it'd be laughable. But in our industry, we completely accept it.
Yeah.
Don't know it, And I mean, I think it is beyond stupid. And it's easy to access.
It's not as
though it's hard.
Yeah.
Go and look at every Grand Prix winner for the last 50 years. It's only going to take you about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But I think also reach out to, there are lots of experienced people around who would be familiar with, and engage with them and
just understand it, and here we are. We've just looked at a summer of Oasis coming back, coming together, and what's that? The phenomena around that. Look at their music, standing on the shoulders of giants and all that stuff, and kind of, brilliant example of how they actually looked back to the Beatles, created this music. And the music now, 30 years after they were doing it, is now packing stadiums out. So don't tell me that yesterday doesn't have value. It has enormous value.
Yeah.
And I always quote this, and I was lucky. I had a wonderful history teacher who walked into our class at the age of 11 and said, I'm your history teacher. Just want you to know, history isn't about the past. It's about the future. Right. I mean, we went, what? And suddenly we were engaged.
Yeah.
And he was so right.
I love that.
That is a great line. Did you, so, looking back with wherever you may have, it might be an idea, it might have been a behaviour,